Hello. Okay. Hold on, I'm having some tech issues, so I'm just double checking to make sure that it is working the way I want it to work. Okay. Hopefully you guys can hear me. I'm not sure if it's actually picking up on my headphones or if it switched to picking up the sound somewhere else. It looked like it kept switching. Like I kept trying to choose this camera that's attached to my computer, and I kept having to like reconnect the headphones, and it was just kind of having a bit of a struggle there. But reconnect the headphones. I can hear myself on the live stream, so that's good. So real quick here, I'm just going to share this. If you guys want to share it as well, I'd appreciate it. So I'm just going to share this to my own personal timeline. This is a free Facebook group, the Sugar Rush Squad Cake and Baking Community. So this is a free group. Anyone can join. You don't even have to officially join to follow it. Yeah, you can just be a silent watcher. So I am live streaming mint chip marshmallows. Okay, and then I'm just going to show this to my own feed. Great. So, okay, sorry for the delay, but now we can get started. I think I have everything set up. I even, as I was like getting ready for this and I was cleaning my kitchen, I realized I should probably also make a batch of marshmallows right before. It was like 10 minutes before I was supposed to start. I quickly like threw together a batch of marshmallows and threw it in the fridge so that when I make this batch, then I can pull the other batch out and cut into it right away, and then you guys can see the process of actually cutting up the marshmallows, because that is kind of important as well, but it takes a while to set in the fridge. So we will be able to do that. Okay, I'm gonna wash my hands real quick, of course. And I should have everything I need right here. But if I have to go disappearing out of the camera for a second, just know I often forget things. But that's okay. Okay, so we are making mint chip marshmallows. I love making these marshmallows. It's a recipe I got from school years ago, but I keep adapting it into different flavors depending on what I'm in the mood for. I am very allergic to corn and corn syrup, so I don't usually eat marshmallows, and the only time I really do is when I make these marshmallows for myself. Sorry, my nose is driving me crazy. Anyways, so every summer when I go up to a cabin and I go roast marshmallows up there, I make a batch of my own marshmallows just to go do that. Just so I can still enjoy it despite having so many food allergies. So yeah, they're really great. You can do these with no corn syrup. You can add the corn syrup if you want. It just changes the texture a little bit. And lately I've been adding brown rice syrup. So this is a brown rice syrup. I found it at some healthy food store. I think it was a Sprouts. So I do keep this on hand, and I've been using it as a substitute for corn syrup lately in a lot of different recipes, and so far it's been great, and I really love using this. So I will be using this today, but you can do this recipe without corn syrup, without the brown rice syrup. You can just do it as is. But yeah, this is like the same kind of consistency as corn syrup, so it's a really great substitute. Corn syrup and the brown rice syrup will add a bit of sweetness, really not that much to notice, but for me, it's more about the texture. So because this is so thick and so sticky, this is what holds candies and marshmallows together. So that's what makes these things sticky. If you don't know, most candy has corn syrup in it. So that's what gives it that chewy texture. You know, just like even hard candy has corn syrup anyways, but yeah, anything that has like a chew to it, like fruit snacks, candy, a lot of even baked goods in general, they put this corn syrup in it to give it like a nice chewy texture. So I actually just recently, I just recently used this to make cosmic brownies on my own. So I made a batch of brownies and I added this into the ganache, which added like a shiny sheen to it, and also just gave it like a little bit of a chewy texture. So there's a lot you can do with corn syrup or brown rice syrup. It's really great. This one is just better for me. So again, optional. So I'm just going to put this off to the side. Okay, these mint chip marshmallows, they are an Italian meringue base. So I've already done a couple recipes, I believe, in the Livestream Bakealongs that are Italian meringue base. I have a lot of recipes that are. And basically what that is a lot of baked goods, a lot of buttercreams and different confectionery goods have a meringue base. A meringue is your egg white and your sugar, you mix it together, you get a nice fluffy meringue, right? The like white, stiff peaks, whatever. Hopefully that makes sense and you're following me so far, because I don't have an example right in front of me, but go Google meringue. So a lot of baked goods have meringue as a base to them, and the method in which you combine your egg whites and your sugar together will change the results ever so slightly. So there's Italian meringue, there's Swiss meringue, and there's French meringue. So French meringue is where you combine your egg whites and your sugar together, and there's no heat applied in that initial process. You just start whisking up fresh egg whites typically, and then you sprinkle in your sugar and it thickens up. Now, Swiss meringue, which is commonly used for buttercream, at least in this industry, that's what I see most people doing, is Swiss meringue buttercream. So what that is you have a double boiler. So you get a pot of water, and then you have a bowl over the top of that, and you're cooking your egg whites and your sugar together, and you're applying that heat, and you're starting to dissolve your sugars ahead of time, and you're starting to turn your egg white mixture into kind of like a eggy syrup. So it starts to thicken it, starts to turn it into a syrup. You're also pasteurizing your egg whites during that cooking process, and then you put it in you put it on your KitchenAid or whatever you have, and then you start whisking that up, and that's where you get your egg white, your meringue. Italian meringue is very intimidating for people, but I love Italian meringue. It gives you the sweetest results. It tends to be sweeter than all the other options, and it gives it like a nice thickness and stability. So when I make macarons, I always do Italian meringue macarons. I love making Italian meringue buttercream, stuff like that. So Italian meringue is where you have a pot of water, or sorry, not a pot of water. Swiss, you have the pot of water and you do a double boiler. For this, we're going to add sugar, and we're going to add sugar and your water into this pot, and we're going to cook this to a certain temperature. Now on this recipe, it's 255 degrees Fahrenheit, which is... not sure where that is because this thermometer does not tell me. Oh my goodness. I've broken a few of my candy thermometers lately, so this one doesn't tell me the candy making process. That's a bummer. So I can't remember, but I would say 255 degrees Fahrenheit is somewhere in the softball stage of the candy making process. So maybe you're familiar, maybe you're not, but the more you cook sugar and water together, the more you cook it and the higher the temperature goes, the harder it's going to be when it cools. So if you only cook it to about that 255, the softball stage, then it's going to be, when it cools, it's going to be like a soft, squishy ball of sugar. And if you keep going higher and higher, you're going to start getting a soft crack, a hard crack. So stuff like toffee, where it's really hard and you can crack it up. That's what that means. So Italian meringue, typically you bring your sugar syrup to a softball stage of the candy making process. and then we're going to pour that into our egg whites. So it still has heat that is used in the process, but you can see how each meringue base is completely different. Science happens. Hello. Oh, hey, I'm just looking at the comments. Greetings from Corpus Christi, Texas. Oh, okay. Hey. I do plan on sharing the recipe. I have just not gotten around to it. With all my Livestream Bakealongs, I've been meaning to share the recipes, so hopefully I can get these recipes out soon. I've been trying to get my website launched, and I've been trying to do a lot of things on the back end like you guys don't even know. And because of a lot of what I've been doing, and I started a podcast on the side for my brother, like I've been way too busy to like keep up on all this stuff. So my goal is to start keeping up with actually putting out the recipes for these Livestream Bakealongs. I'm starting to like finally get on top of my work right now, and yeah, so hopefully I'll share that very soon. But you can always go back and rewatch this, and also I'll be uploading these videos to YouTube. You can also join this Facebook group and scroll back at all the previous live streams. They're always available. Okay. So I've got quite a few ingredients back here. What I really love about these marshmallows is that originally they were fruit marshmallows. I've just adapted them into a whole bunch of other flavors. So I'll kind of talk about that, like what I've done to change it into different flavors. Okay. Now I just have to remember what all these ingredients, where each one goes. There's 2 measurements of water. That's important. Okay. And then I just have to remember how much syrup to use. 1 tablespoon, okay. Okay. Okay, that's most of my ingredients so far. So again, syrup is optional, but I will be adding my brown rice syrup just because I like how it adds like a sticky texture to it, and kind of keeps it just changes the texture of a marshmallow ever so slightly. It's not a huge difference, so not crazy necessary. I've made this recipe so many times without it. I've only recently started adding syrup. You can also use the corn syrup like I mentioned. So I have a pot of water. This is going to be the base of my Italian meringue. This is going to be my sugar. And for this, I did half a recipe, so this is 100 grams of water. Again, I have 2 measurements of water. I have water over here, and I have water that I just poured into this. Okay, so typically with the Italian meringue base, you just have your sugar and your water. If you ever make some kind of candy where you have the syrup, this is where you add the syrup. So I'm going to add my syrup right now, about 1 tablespoon. Oh wait, no, my bad. I halved this recipe because I already had to make a batch for the demo, so I don't want to make too many marshmallows. Okay, so half a tablespoon. We'll pretend that's half. Yeah, the brown rice syrup is, it's pretty expensive, I would say. I can't remember how much I paid, but probably close to $10, give or take, for this little jar. But corn is bad for you anyways, but I'm very biased because I'm very allergic to corn. It used to be one of my worst allergies. It's not as bad as it used to be, but I still try to avoid it. Okay, so again, sugar, water, and my brown rice syrup. I'm going to turn this on and start heating it up, but I'm not going to turn it on too high. Okay, and then you just cook this on a stovetop. I have my stovetop clear over here, so we're just going to use an induction burner right here. Any stovetop will do. Now when you start cooking your sugar and your water together, anytime you cook sugar over the stovetop, you have to be really careful that once it starts boiling, you don't stir it, you have to leave it alone. If you stir your sugar as it starts to boil, it'll actually crystallize and seize up your sugar. So I'm just stirring it initially to make sure that syrup is getting mixed in thoroughly and that all my sugar is thoroughly saturated by that water. So I'm just going to carefully stir this real quick before it heats up too much, and then I'm going to leave it alone. So typically, anytime I make something like this with an Italian meringue, I do it in a very small pot like I have here. If you go too wide with your pot, then it'll cook it unevenly, and your sugar will start to brown in some areas and caramelize, whereas other areas, like the sugar's still dissolving. No bueno, right? So what I've got here is my candy thermometer as well. It needs to be able to like go into your pot enough. So if your pot is too big and you have a very shallow mixture inside, then your thermometer is not going to get a good accurate reading. So it's best to just use a small pot if you can. Okay. Now, also what I have here is a little bowl of water. Secondary measurement, this one was 87 grams of water. Now, when it comes to the water, you can substitute the water for fruit juice. So if you have lemon juice, if you have, I've used passion fruit puree, I've used strawberry puree, I've used all sorts of fruit purees. Like you want to use like liquidy fruit purees, you can do this this bowl in a fruit puree and turn this into a fruit marshmallow, which is originally what it used to be. However, you can also just do water, and then you can add your own flavorings to your marshmallow. So there's options there. I like to add different flavorings because I don't like fruit. It's just a personal preference. Now, this bowl, I want to do a bowl that can fit over, because I'm going to be doing a double boiler. This takes a little bit of coordinating. In fact, I'm going to turn down my cooking marshmallows or my cooking syrup in the process of talking about this. This takes a lot of balancing to do all of this at once, but you might want to not do everything that I'm doing all at once, or turn down the temperature during this process. Okay, so I have my water here, or if you want to, fruit juice, the exact same measurement. And then I have gelatin powder. So I just bought a big pack of gelatin powder at the store, and I always keep a lot on hand. Now when you add your gelatin powder to this bowl, and again a bowl that can fit over your double boiler, when you add your gelatin powder, you want to make sure you whisk this together and don't let it sit. I've made that mistake of I'm measuring everything out, I put my gelatin over the water, and then I just let it sit off to the side. And what happens is it doesn't bloom properly, or yeah. It basically, like, it doesn't, the gelatin won't mix in as much because some of it will dissolve and some of it will refuse to dissolve if you don't take the time to blend it in together. So now I've got like a nice gelatin mixture here. And as this is cooking, okay, gotta make sure I'm not overcooking it. As this is cooking over here, I am going to heat this up and just kind of melt down my gelatin. Overcooking or overheating your gelatin will actually keep it from ever setting. I don't know much about that, but I just know that's a thing. I've heard of it. I couldn't give you any details past that. I need to do more research. But yeah, so at this point, I'm cooking my sugar syrup, and I'm also melting my gelatin into my secondary measurement of water over the double boiler. So I'm just trying to be efficient here by using all of this. Fun stuff. Okay, now this is like really liquidy. That's all I needed to do is just melt it down, make sure that you don't have clumps of gelatin. If you get those clumps of gelatin, you can't melt them down. Like they will refuse to melt down, and later you'll get like chunks of gelatin in your marshmallows. So that is an important step. Okay, so again, I've already made a batch of marshmallows, and because of that, I halved this recipe. So because I only did half, it's a very small measurement, and because of that, it's only 1 egg. If I were to do the full measurement of this, it would be 2 egg whites. This is 1 egg white, so it's not very much. And I'm just going to dump that into a KitchenAid bowl. Actually, let's get rid of that back here. Now here's the thing. This is such a small amount in my KitchenAid bowl that if I tried to put it in my KitchenAid with the whisk attachment, this whisk is going to have a hard time catching the little bit of egg white that I have in there, and it's going to have a hard time whisking it up. So I'm going to give it some help right at the beginning, and I'm going to hand whisk. So fun. Okay, gotta double check that. So again, I've got this bowl over here, I've got this over here. I want to make sure I'm not overheating my sugar syrup in the process, because we need to get these egg whites to start whisking up before that's ready. Once that's ready, we need to, like, it's go time, right? So this is the fun part, hand whisking. Takes a little bit of patience. If I did a bigger batch, then this part is unnecessary. I can just use the whisk attachment. Now, as this is starting to thicken up, it's going to start getting foamy, and it's going to become more opaque and less translucent. Oh, forgot to mention, your egg whites should be room temperature. When you pour your sugar syrup into your egg whites, if your egg whites are too cold, like they're fresh out of the fridge especially, then what that can do is make your sugar syrup immediately cool down and seize up, and then it'll turn into sugar clumps that won't want to mix into your egg white mixture, and then you'll get like nasty sugar clumps in your marshmallow. So anytime I make an Italian meringue, I always use very warm egg whites. So I did give my eggs a water bath before I did this part. Okay, so it's becoming a lot thicker. I'm going to add my my salt. This is just a pinch of salt, just to help enhance the flavor a little bit. Okay, we're almost there. So I'm just going to bring my egg whites to the bottom of the bowl so that the whisk can catch it better. Hopefully you guys had a good Thanksgiving. I went and saw Wicked twice, and I've just been working on my website like crazy, so it's good for me. Okay. Okay, so I turned the temperature down over here quite a bit so it doesn't cook too fast. I'm going to turn it up just a little bit more because we are almost ready over here. So I'm just going to turn this up to a very high speed. Hopefully you guys can hear me still okay. Okay, sometimes because it's such a small amount at the bottom, I also kind of lift my bowl a touch just so that it can catch the egg white. Now I am starting to get like a very foamy, very opaque egg white mixture, but I have no sugar added yet. Adding the salt early supposedly keeps you from over whisking your egg whites. I don't know much about that. I've heard it's true and I've heard it's false. I don't know who to believe. Okay. So my egg whites are starting to look really good over here. They're getting pretty thick. You can see it's not much. It's still a little bit stiff, but it's very foamy. I have a lot of the egg white on the sides, so I'm just going to make sure that all of it is catching at the bottom. Okay, do you see that? We've got egg whites. They're not super thick, they're actually sliding around, but we still have egg whites, and that's good for this next step. Okay, I'm almost to 255. Let's just protect my counters. Okay, so once I get to 255 over here, I can take this off the heat. So, 255 degrees Fahrenheit. We have my egg whites over here that have been whisked up and they're ready to have this poured into it. But, and this is where a lot of recipes don't have something like this, we're going to add our water gelatin mixture. So I'm just going to pour this right in. I'm actually going to switch. So I would just use like a heat-proof silicone spatula, something that's not going to melt in your hot pot, or a heat-resistant spatula. These are the spatulas I use for ice malt, so they're perfect. Okay, and then that gelatin mixture just needs to be stirred into this very hot sugar syrup. Turn this off. It makes a very annoying whining noise. Okay, so once this is thoroughly mixed together, we have our gelatin, water mixture that's poured into our hot sugar syrup with our brown rice syrup. Ugh, I know it gets a little bit confusing. But once that's thoroughly blended in, you should have a nice like liquidy. Can't really show the camera, can I? Otherwise I'm going to pour this out on the counter. Yeah, you should have like a nice liquidy mixture. And now we're going to turn this whisk back on to a very high speed, and we're going to pour this in a nice steady stream. You just want to pour down the side so that the whisk attachment doesn't fling the mixture around. Italian meringue to a lot of students, and they tend to hold the pot too close to the center, and then they pour it down, and the whisk will catch the mixture, and it'll just fling it all around the bowl, and then it just pulls on the edges. So just make sure you're pouring straight down the side of the bowl. Okay, this needs a second to whisk up. In the meantime, I'm just going to clean up a touch and I'll show you the next step. And if you ever have questions, let me know. Okay. So I've got this pot of water, and this will be necessary for much later, but you guys will see in a second. So I'm just going to get this boiling nice and hot. Okay, and hopefully you can hear me okay over everything that's happening right now. But this egg white mixture over here is still kind of liquidy, but you can see it start to thicken up, so I'll show you guys that in a second. But we're just going to push this off to the side, and I've been working with raw egg whites here, so I'm going to sanitize my station before moving on. you guys. This is starting to thicken up. Not terribly too much, but that's okay. So I like to add the things that I need to at this point. So I like to add my food coloring and stuff like that at this point. So because these are mint chocolate chip marshmallows, I'm going to be using a leaf green, and I'm just going to go very subtle with the leaf green to try to achieve that mintiness. Let's just get a tiny little spatula. So you have to go subtle with, subtle with the leaf green to get a mint green. And you can see that a whole bunch shot out. So that's why you don't do it directly into the bowl. That might be too much, but we'll see. And then this is where I add my flavoring as well. So typically with these marshmallows, again, you can use fruit puree, but you can also use, I like to use oil-based flavors. They just are nice and I don't know, they're a nice like strong flavor, so you don't need to add very much. So there's a couple options here. The marshmallows I've already made that I'm going to pull out of the fridge here soon, they are actually not mint chip. They are like birthday cake. So I use this liquid cake batter flavoring extract that I got from Generate Cakes. This was a sample they gave me and I love it. So I really like the birthday cake marshmallows. I think they're fun. And you guys will see those in a second. But again, I just use this like little flavor extract. There's so many different things you can do. Or like I said, you can use super strength Loran oils or any oils. So this is creme de menthe. I also have peppermint here, but I'm going to explain the difference here in a second. I also have marshmallow flavored oils. So sometimes if I just want straight marshmallow flavor, I'll just use the marshmallow oil, which just tastes like sugar, really. You can also just use vanilla extract. This is my vanilla extract. Sometimes I'll use a little bit of vanilla extract as well as vanilla bean. Sometimes I just want fancy vanilla bean marshmallows, and that's cool too. So I use sometimes vanilla bean with the vanilla. That's great. If I do the vanilla, I usually leave them white. If I do the cake batter ones, I usually add pink flavor or pink food coloring to it. And it looks like I put it away over there, but the marshmallows that are birthday cake are also, they have funfetti rainbow sprinkles in them, so that's fun. And then, what else have I done? The fruit ones. There's so many flavors you could do. They're great. Okay, so a lot of people don't know the difference because I used to work at a chocolate store and I always had to explain the difference between people quite often. But there is a difference between peppermint and creme de menthe. They're not the same mint. They're close to the same mint. So peppermint, I believe they're technically the same mint, but I believe peppermint is sweeter. It just has like, I gotta Google this actually. It's been a long time since I've had to explain this to anyone. Peppermint versus creme de menthe. Okay, so creme de menthe and peppermint. They are both mint flavored. Creme de menthe is an alcoholic liquor made with mint extract and sugar. Typically, okay, so creme de menthe is a sweeter one. Typically sweeter and with a milder mint taste compared to peppermint, which refers to the raw herb itself and can be used in various forms like essential oils, blah, blah, blah. Okay, it has a more intense, sometimes slightly spicy mint flavor, so that's peppermint. So it says essentially creme de menthe is a processed, sweetened version of peppermint used primarily in cocktails. I did not know that it was used primarily in cocktails, but to help explain the difference between the two, peppermint would be like candy canes you get for Christmas, right? Whereas creme de menthe is more like mint chocolate ice cream or Girl Scout cookies. Okay, completely different mints. So we're going to be using creme de menthe. So typically if I do peppermint, I do red food coloring. If I do creme de menthe, I do green food coloring, just because that makes more sense based off of mint chocolate chip and peppermint candy. Oil goes a long way, so it's best to just like add a tiny little bit at a time. It's actually best if you have a dropper, but I don't. Add tiny bits at a time because the mint can be very overpowering and you don't want that. So again, I've added some green food coloring and I've added some of the mint oil. The more you whisk this up, the thicker it's going to get. So we are going to keep whisking this a little bit longer. This has a beautiful mint color. Beautiful, beautiful. It's probably maybe even too subtle for you guys to see. Okay, so this is where I start doing my taste test to make sure that the flavoring is good. I did not add that much and it's very minty, so I definitely don't need to add more. I'm going to add a touch more green food coloring. Okay. And then you just want to keep this whisking for a little bit. Now what I also have are chocolate chips. Now you can use any size chocolate chip. I think the larger the chocolate chips, the worse it would be. It's best to get tiny ones. So these ones are super, super small. These are called tiny semi-drop guitar chips. You can't even see them, they're so tiny. There you go. And you see that tiny little chip on my finger. Okay. So these are tiny semi-drop. I really love the texture of these little guys and the guitars, so they're good quality chocolate. I'm very picky with my chocolate. I don't like store-bought baking chips. These like tiny semi-drop chips, I use these. I get them from a chocolate supply store. You don't have to get them this small, but this is what I love. I keep these on hand all the time because I love to use them. Let's see. I like to add these to Greek yogurt. I like to add these to, sometimes I'll slice up an apple and I'll dip it in sunflower butter and then I'll dip that into the chocolate chips, and I just love the tiny little texture of the chips. Plus they're just good quality flavor. Okay, let me get a spatula real quick. Now you can let this whisk a little bit longer, but you can see how like it's starting to thicken up even more. It's still a little bit runny at this point. Now, I used to whisk this so long that it would just be super, super thick, but I found that that's not going to give you the best results. Okay, so let me just add some chips to this. Until I feel like it has a good amount of chips. Okay. We're very close to this being done. From here is while this is whisking up, you need to have a pan ready to go. So because I only did a half batch here, I'm just going to use a 6-inch pan. If I do a full batch, I actually do an 8x8 pan. So I just get a 6-inch for this square pan. And then from here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray this with, just use any kind of cooking oil. And then I've already cut parchment to line my pan. So I have a long piece of parchment that is going to go up the sides. This will make getting your marshmallows out of the pan so much easier, and we're going to cut these marshmallows into squares. You can probably also pipe the marshmallows. I haven't put a lot of effort into trying that out. And then I have 2 additional strips for the sides of my pan. Okay, so here I have my pan, nice and lined. And then I've already measured out all my ingredients, but what you need to do is have a 50-50 mix of powdered sugar and potato starch. You can probably do other kinds of starches. I've always used potato starch, but arrowroot starch, or no, what do I usually use? Okay, yeah, I usually use potato starch on this. So you can use potato starch, arrowroot starch, I'm sure you can use cornstarch. Potato is just what I've always used for this one. So you just need a starch and you do a 50-50 mix. So I think on this, because I can keep reusing this as well, I did 150 grams of powdered sugar and I did 150 grams of potato starch. And I've already put them both in here, but I haven't blended them together yet. So it's always good to whisk these two together. And once you've mixed these together and we use this to coat our marshmallows, I usually just keep this mixture on hand and I just label it in a container like this. And then every time I make these marshmallows, which is quite often, then I just pull this mixture out and I just keep reusing the same mixture. So I don't throw this away after I'm done. Because you use so little every time. Okay. So now, again, 50-50 mix of powdered sugar and potato starch. Oh, hold on, this turned off. I must have accidentally turned off my stove top, but I need that nice and hot for the next little bit. Okay. Now I've been letting this whisk off to this side. It looks like it's thickening up really nicely. Ooh, look at that. Okay. Okay. Da-da. So I'm just going to get a little tiny sifter. And what I usually do is I just very lightly sift some of this powder mixture into my pan. Again, this will just make your marshmallows so much easier to work with. I'm going to try and get some on the sides, but it tends to not want to stick on the sides. Okay. So I lightly powdered this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take this thickened marshmallow and add it into my pan. Now if you let this thicken up too much before you put it in your pan, you will notice that you'll have a lot of air pockets in your marshmallows and it won't kind of settle itself in the pan as much. Okay, and then from here I'm just going to take a little offset spatula and I'm just going to spread it into the corners of my pan and just try to reduce the amount of air pockets you have in your marshmallow. And I'm just going to even this out as much as possible. Okay. Now I have my marshmallow, my mint chip. Very easy. And then I'm just going to let this sit in the fridge. I usually like to give it, I think, like 2 hours to sit in the fridge so that gelatin can start to really solidify. And then we're going to cut these up. So I'm going to go get my other batch that I've already made. I'm going to show the cutting process and then we're done. marshmallows. I want to make 2 different flavors tonight. So these ones are birthday cake. So because I've sprayed this and I've added the parchment paper, you can see how easy it is to get out of the pan. I actually had to make more of my powdered mixture, so I didn't have any to put in here yet. But it looks like I greased it enough that it's still pulling away from the parchment paper just fine. So from here, I'm actually going to put gloves on. If you don't have gloves, that's fine, but you will find that gloves are easier to work with sticky marshmallows. Okay, so again, you want the marshmallows to sit for at least a couple hours overnight if you really want to, if you're trying to make a lot or you're just trying to do a multi-day production. I'm going to set that off to the side. Actually, what I'm going to do real quick, I'm going to take some of my powdered mixture and just lightly coat the top just so it's easier to handle. If you try to grab this on the raw exposed marshmallow, it's going to be so sticky. It sticks to everything. But I'm just lightly coating it to make it easier. And I'm just going to cut this directly on the surface because I've already sanitized it. You can also use a cutting board if you'd like. Okay, just rub that in. Beautiful, beautiful marshmallows. Okay. Now this is where your pot of water comes in. So I have a big pot of water when I go to cut. You can just turn your sink on and run really hot water. It's just a big waste of water because I tend to have to leave it running for a while, especially when I'm doing a bigger batch of marshmallows. Love that. Okay, so typically I have a pot of boiling water like that, and then I have a towel as well that I am wiping it clean with in between cuts. So usually in between, as I'm working on this, I just let the knife sit in the pot of water, and then when I'm ready to cut, I'm just going to pull that out, and then I'm going to wipe it clean, and then I'm going to start cutting my marshmallows. So typically I want it to be squares. So I'm trying to get a square cut. Let's see. It looks about square. So I'm just going to start cutting this so that the height of the marshmallow is the same width that I'm cutting roughly. And you will see like how much your marshmallow sticks to your knife. So I tend to dip it in my water, my hot boiling water, almost every single cut. And I'm just going to eyeball this, and I'm just going to keep cutting. You can see this part is pretty easy. Okay. Now, all the exposed edges that I just cut, those are going to be super sticky, like I said. So if you ever feel like you need to, you can always take these strips and just dip them in your powder mixture. And anything that's exposed will now be coated. It'll be easier to handle without sticking to you. Whereas this is like so sticky. And this is just going to make more cuts easier. And just make sure to pat off all the excess powder. Okay, we're almost done. Okay, so once I start getting my little square cuts, that's where I just start tossing them straight into my bowl. Okay. Last cut. Okay, so from here I have all my marshmallows sitting in this powder, and then I'm just gonna lightly toss all my marshmallows. And I'll just put this in a secondary bowl, but typically your marshmallows, you want to store them. Typically you want to store your marshmallows in like a seal-tight container. So if you have one of those, just go ahead and place your finished marshmallows straight into that. So usually what I like to do is I like to pick up my marshmallows and I just kind of spank them. You'll get a lot of starch in the air. But I just lightly spank them, just kind of pat, 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 and I get rid of all the excess powder. Okay. You can also kind of toss them like this. So sometimes I do like a little toss, toss, pat, pat, and then I grab another batch of marshmallows, toss, 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 pat, pat, pat. Okay. So easy. The initial making of the marshmallows is the hardest part because you're trying to juggle your a lot of stuff. Sorry, I have a lot of powder in the air. Because you're trying to juggle your egg whites and you're trying to juggle your gelatin mixture and you're trying to juggle the sugar syrup. So it is a lot. But once you get used to it, it's really quick, really easy to make, and really delicious. So I have used these to roast over an actual fire. I've roasted marshmallows before and they do okay. I wouldn't say they're perfect, but it still gives me that experience. They just have a hard time clinging to the marshmallow stick. These tend to want to just slough right off. That's okay. I don't think I've ever tried it with the sugar syrup though, so maybe I need to try again next time to make sure I'm doing it with the sugar syrup, and maybe I'll have an easier time holding on to it. That makes sense? Okay. Again, all this starch, if you need to, you can always sift this to make sure there's no little marshmallow bits that are sitting in your starch. But you can reuse this over and over again. I had a mixture that I used for a couple years before I just barely ran out like a month ago, so I just had to make a new mixture. So it takes a long time to go through it. And now we have beautiful square little marshmallows. They're so beautiful and they're so delicious and just nice and sugary sweet. Love it. Okay. So these are great to roast. Sometimes I'll take like leftover mixture that didn't make it into the pan and I'll toast that, because why not? So I'm just going to transfer this to something that's metal because we don't want to burn my spatula. But look how beautiful that toasts. So these do toast really well. I've made vanilla marshmallows before where I've toasted them and used them as toppers on like a s'mores cake. Really beautiful and tastes really delicious. Just fantastic. I'm gonna burn myself if I do that. Oh my gosh. These ones probably wouldn't be as good because they're birthday cake, and I don't know if you'd want to taste a burnt birthday cake marshmallow. But just look at that. These are also really delicious dipped in chocolate. My sister's obsessed with these marshmallows when they're dipped in chocolate. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The mid-chip ones won't be done for a while. They have to sit in the fridge for probably another hour before they're fully set and I can cut them like this. but you can see how easy they are, and you can adapt them to so many different flavors, so many different occasions. These would be great for birthday parties. The mint trip are great for holidays. Next month in January, I'm going to be making a variety of flavors dipped in chocolate for a wedding that's coming up for a friend. So anyways, there you go. Thanks for joining me. I thought today's live stream would be shorter. Oh, hey, we've kept this at 55 minutes. I've been trying, I want these live streams to only be an hour, but they've been going like 1.5 to 2 hours long, which it is what it is. I can only speed up baking so much. And for that reason, I haven't been doing a lot of actual oven baking. And I've been experimenting with these live streams with very easy confectionery treats that don't require actual baking, but still require heat and a lot of technical skill. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I'm gonna get the recipe out to you guys very soon, hopefully in the next day or so. I am juggling a lot of different projects right now, so I will put that on my to-do list to get that sent out so that you guys can start getting these recipes for these monthly live stream bake-alongs. And let me know if you guys have any questions. So all of these bake-alongs, I'm going to be doing one a month that are free within this Facebook group, Sugar Rush Squad Cake and Baking Community. It's an open group right now. Anyone can join. Anyone can join. Anyone can join. I don't know why I tried to repeat that. And then I also download these videos and I upload them to my YouTube channel, which I'm trying to revive right now because I haven't touched it in 3 years. So I also have a YouTube channel. I am going to potentially soon, maybe in the next 2 months or so, I'm going to be launching my own podcast. I won't give too much details away, but I will be starting to upload a podcast to my YouTube channel as well, and just uploading a lot of fun content there. And I'm working on that on the back end. I've also started a video game podcast on the side, so anytime I talk about a podcast, I'm mostly talking about the video game podcast that I've been running for my brother. But I am going to be starting my own podcast for people in the cake and baking community. And I think it's a really great concept. I think people are really going to enjoy it. So we'll see. Also, I have a website that I was hoping to get out by today, but unfortunately I was not able to make that deadline. So I am working on a website right now. My website is Neo Sugar Rush. Don't go there yet because it's not ready if you're watching this too soon. But neosugarrush.com. I am creating a monthly membership option where you'll get something like these live stream bake-alongs, but they're going to be live stream cake-alongs, where every month, again, this is going to be behind a paid wall on my website, a monthly membership fee, but basically you'll get a professional cake recipe once a month from me, and you'll get a free recipe. I guess it's paid, not free recipe. You get a recipe a month as well as and a printable of that, as well as I'll do a live stream cake along where I'll show you the science behind each recipe so that you can master those recipes very quickly. These bake-alongs are free in this Facebook group, so that might get a little bit confusing. But bake-alongs are free, cake-alongs will be in the monthly membership. And what else? I'm going to be launching my 3D Cake Masterclass online. That's been a whole thing. So I taught that class in person, and now I'm putting it online. So my 3D Cake Masterclass for people who really want to master 3D cakes and maybe get into competitions and things like that, or just charge more for their clients. And I know there's more I'm working on the back end, but just know I've been very, very busy. So anyways, keep your eyes out. A lot is happening right now. And I'll catch you guys later. Happy Thanksgiving, and hope you guys have a good holiday, and we'll do another live stream in January. I believe I already picked the date. I just need to put it out there for you guys. But next month I'm going to be making my passion fruit tarts. I gotta show you guys. Okay, the fruit here is getting a little bit aged, but I promise this is appealing. So this is my lemon passion fruit tart. I make so many of these every Thanksgiving. I think I make 5 of these 11-inch tarts. I made 2 medium-sized. I made, I think, 5 smaller, like 6-inch round ones. So I made a ton of these lemon passion fruit tarts for Thanksgiving. And then I also made some chocolate ones for myself. But anyways, I make these every single Thanksgiving. My family is obsessed, okay? This is my husband's fruit tart that is waiting for him when he comes back from hunting. So he's still gonna eat this. The fruit is just getting a little sad looking, but that's on him for not eating it before he went hunting. So anyways, this is gonna be next month. I'll set the date here soon and I'll get that up and going. But this has a pâte à sucre dough. Very delicious, can be used for tarts. It also has a frangipane layer, which is an almond paste that you bake, and then it has a lemon passion fruit curd that my family and all my friends, anyone who tries this is crazy obsessed with it. I don't understand it, but everyone's just obsessed. So I'm going to be showing how to make my lemon passion fruit tarts, which is the most requested dessert I've ever made for my family. Every year they tell me if I don't make it, they'll disown me. I don't get it. I've never eaten this, but I've been making it since I think 2018 or 2019. So hopefully you guys enjoy it. But yes, this will be January's live stream bake along. So happy holidays. Talk to you guys later. Are they 2 inches? Oh, sorry. I just saw your message. I would say like 1.5 inch maybe. I think 2 inches a little bit too much. But yeah, probably about 1.5 inch. Little squares. Okay, bye.